Wednesday is Thor'sDay. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy. We took a little break at the end of the season, and we are jumping in the hot stove because, boy, baseball doesn't take a break. And, dog, I feel like our off-season shows actually seem to do better than our in-season shows because there's so much to talk about. On this one, we'll kick it off with Veteran of the Day. We'll give our thoughts on the World Series. We'll do the lay of the land with labor, the early free agent signings, and surprises. Thor to the Angels, hence the name of this episode. We'll do a little bit on our pal Ray Montgomery, the Mets front office, and Billy Eppler. And we'll close it out with Diehard Dads. To check us out, go to @DiamondDiehards on all the social media. If you're on Facebook, you're doing it already. And if you're catching this on demand or on audio, we want you to hit those subscribe or follow buttons and hit the alert buttons where those exist as well. And then every time we are doing live content or uploading content, you'll get an alert and you'll know all about it. Please interact with us when we do our live streams. For now, only on Facebook. We've done them on all the platforms in the past, but we've concentrated more on Facebook. And we look forward to just growling and snarling with more content as we bring it forward to you.
Diamond Dog is very happy about that.
Diamond Dog is very, very, very excited. So with that, the Twitter handles are for not the Diamond Dog, but for the dog, Jeff Healy. It's @JeffHealy8. And on Twitter, you can follow me @DiamondDiehards. I'm running the Diamond Diehards Twitter and all the other social media, like we said, @DiamondDiehards. So, with the Diamond Dog just dying for Veteran of the Day, we bring in her daddy, the dog, Jeff Healy.
Here we go, dopey dog. So, yes, Veteran of the Day. As always, always a fun one. I'm going to reach back to my Connecticut Army National Guard roots on this one. So a fun one for our Veteran of the Day is going to be Sergeant First Class Matthew Odell. He serves currently with the Headquarters Company, 1st of the 169th Aviation Regiment, up in the Connecticut Army National Guard. They fly all the Chinooks and stuff. Very, very proficient flyers, been all around the world, literally. He signed up in December 2006, went off and deployed to Kuwait in 2009. I got to see some of those guys. Actually, when I was going to Iraq, we actually went by and got to say hello to him in Kuwait. He went back to Kosovo in 2015, and then again in 2021. So they provide the helicopters for the peacekeeping forces in Kosovo. He's moved up from Battalion Supply Sergeant to Battalion Supply NCOIC. This guy in charge of all the supply, which is a huge job for an aviation regiment. And he was also recently awarded the Order of St. Martin for his distinguished service in the field of supply. So our Veteran of the Day, Sergeant First Class Matthew Odell, the Connecticut Army National Guard.
Thank you for your service, Matthew, and always a great job on the Veteran of the Day stuff by our veteran emeritus of the day, the dog. We took a little hiatus last week, and on that, we were going to try to do a show on actual Veterans Day, but we didn't do that. So I wanted to take that moment and this time, just not quite a week later, to wish you a happy Veterans Day and all your brethren, and to say thank you for your service, dog, and for your family as well, because they're all part of the sacrifice. Sometimes that goes a little unsaid when we talk about our beloved veterans, but it's also their families very often that are making a sacrifice when our veterans are out serving our country at home and abroad. So thanks to you, dog, and the rest of the Healys.
Thank you, Riz. Much appreciated.
Enjoy that bourbon tonight, dog. Enjoy that bourbon. Enjoy it.
A little bourbon.
We're off to an auspicious start. The Diamond Dog, who has been silent for almost 2 years on the show.
She was having none of it. It's been a rough day for Met fans here.
She's decided to just act up and jump her way in. So let's first kick it off with our we'll do our little wrap up on the World Series, which at this point is dog. It's crazy. It's only like a couple of weeks ago, and it seems a million years in the past because of the crazy jump start to free agency. But what I think's been funny in the fallout here is you see like this little closet bitterness that the Braves won 88 games and they end up walking away with the World Series trophy. I mean, like they didn't deserve it. Like and Scott Boras with his comments and like I mean, who like who in their right mind doesn't think that Braves deserve to have won the World Series? I mean, they beat the team with the best pitching, who's Ace just won the Cy Young Award 5 minutes before we started this thing. The Brewers and Corbin Burns. They dispatch of them in the first round. Then they go to the second round and they have to play the 106 win, defending champion Dodgers, who just beat the 107 win Giants, right? And they take care of the Dodgers, and then they get to the World Series against the perennial powerhouse Astros, who granted didn't look like their previous selves as much, but they're still there. They still have
Yep.
that lineup, and they make them go cold, and they nearly finish it in five, and finally finish it in six. Like, who with okay, so they were 500, and in the first week of August, and they went out and their trade for four outfielders to completely pans out, like as like Alex Anthopoulos basically wins the trade deadline, like
Huge.
rarely we have seen. Like sometimes you saw like when the Astros got Justin Verlander, who just re-signed with the Astros moments ago, according to reports, for 1 year, 25 million, with a player option for the same for the second year, as Dog noted, player option. That's some good juicy
Playa.
juice.
Hmm.
Um, you're talking about, like, okay, they went out and got one guy and he was like the guy, and clearly he propelled them to the World Series in 2017. But to go out and get four guys, and they have tepid success, 1 to 4, based on what they did in the regular season, and then basically like unmitigated success every time they're stepping up there at the plate and in the outfield in the playoffs. Um, like, how do you not completely respect that? Like that's actually an amazing job. Like, and that they should be applauded, um, to the nines, really. Like the Braves did a great job this year. I mean, they saw a division that was very, very, very much up for grabs. They surveyed what was around them and they said, you know what, let's just go all in. It didn't even look like at that time like they had the pitching. It didn't look like they had the bullpen. Ronald Acuna was hurt. Their offense was just completely inconsistent. Freddie Freeman was good, but he had a horrible start to the season. And I mean, it all comes together. The stars align, and Scott Boras is making jackass comments about it. So great job by the Braves. You got to figure that, um, you know, whatever changes that they make, dog. It's like as a Met fan, or for you and a fan of the, you know, a fan of a team in the NL East that's not the Braves. Like, you got to be sitting there scratching your head, going, the Nationals had their run, and now the Braves had their run, and you know the the Marlins are, you know, up and coming, maybe, right? And the Phillies look like they've righted the ship, but their run was still not. I mean, it was sort of a generation-ish ago, but still within the, like, you would take a championship in 2008 if you were a Met fan, right? Like, you would have
Yes,
signed
sir.
for that right now. You would take a championship in 2003, like the Marlins, right? Like, you would sign
Yeah.
for that right now. So you look at those teams, and 2003 for the Marlins, 2008 for the Phillies, 2019 for the Nationals, and this year for the Braves. And then you got to go back to 86 for the Mets, the biggest market team in there. So you'd sign for the success of the other teams in your division, and
Hold on, Riz.
that's
Okay.
at the
We're
same
back.
time. The
Yep.
point is, dog. At the same time, you have to applaud it, because as a Met fan, you understand how difficult it is to get to that summit, and just because you might have the money, just because you might be a big market team, whatever, just because you might have the best players, which the Braves probably didn't this season, that doesn't mean you can't go out and win a World Series.
Yeah, I mean they're like Jason, right? I mean we thought the Braves were going to be solid this year. You know, they had injuries in the first half of the year. You know, the Mets somehow were all putting it together, and it was all kind of working. And it's funny, I still vividly remember the deadline show we did. You know, like, and you were going down like talking about their guys and stuff, and like nobody else was even talking about it. Like honestly, about this show was about the only one who was talking about half of those Brave moves on there. And we were like, well, you know, we'll see. You know, maybe this will work out. It's not, small, small prices. They didn't pay up a lot for it. It was basically all lottery tickets, and all the scratch offs worked. And like to say, they played over 100 win baseball, basically from the trading deadline onward. So again, like Boris can make all the comments he wants, but they were a completely different team, first half, second half, and the second half team that went in and showed it against 100 win teams and said we're one as well, right? And they found a way to go out and get it done. They have veteran players who are willing to step up at the key times, and they nailed it. And hats off to them for it. And it really shows the value of having the whole depth of the organization and stuff, right? So they're able to backfill some of their stuff, which other teams were not able to do. And then smart scouting, smart player development, smart pro player analysis to go out and pick up the right guys and have it work for you. So hats off to them.
It's really like actually like a great story
Yeah,
to see the guys that they picked up, and the combination of them fitting into the realm of the team that they had, and then the guys in the bullpen stepping up as well. Um,
yeah.
I really thought it was a great story. I found myself, when we got to the Final Four, none of which you or I picked. We didn't get one right. We didn't
No,
get one team right between us in the Final Four. That's baseball, Susan. Um,
humbling.
oh yeah, a little bit. But I found myself rooting for them. I'm a Yankee fan, so I didn't really, feel like pulling for the Astros or the Red Sox, and I did find myself pulling for the Astros more than the Red Sox in that series for whatever reason. Like I just let my heart take over. Hey, I don't know. I'm watching the game. Who do I feel like I'm rooting for? And it was the Astros. And then in the Dodger Braves series, um, yeah, I felt like I was just rooting for the Braves. And then when it got to the World Series, obviously that was a pretty easy one for me. And
Everyone in America outside of Houston,
yeah, pretty
even
much.
even in Texas,
Yeah,
like Dallas is still going for Atlanta.
I know. It's kind of funny,
So
right?
yeah,
But anyway, I think we put a bow on the World Series, and it just shifted so quickly to the hot stove this year with this,
yeah,
December 1st magic labor deadline hanging over our heads, and free agents signing, for it like an interesting array of deals so far, dog. Meaning like you had Rodriguez signing, Erod signing with Detroit for what was it, like 5 years and 77 million, and we just talked about Verlander, um, and it. But first, let's talk about the reason why these guys are signing and the deals that are being made. It's the opposite of seemingly of a few years ago when
yeah.
labor was hanging over the off season, and we have things that are not settled. Like forget about just a collective bargaining agreement, dog. We have, is there going to be a universal DH or not? Like that's a big one,
Oh yeah,
and these players, to me, the players that are going out and they're grabbing the money right now, man, their agents are the smart ones. And I could be proven wrong on that, but when these guys are getting these deals and they're signing them, Jose Barrios, right, 7 years, 131 million to stay with the Blue Jays. I'm looking at these deals. I'm like, these guys are smart because they
Who
don't
knows?
know what's going on the other side. And typically, Dog, right, when we see the labor agreements come into place, or work stoppages potentially, the thing that usually goes first when the owners are looking to sign players is the term of the contracts shrink. They go away. And you have these middle type guys who are not the super, like, and when I say a middle type guy, that's a big swath of guys in the middle. It's not the
Yep.
super top free agents, and it's not, the 6-year minor league free agent guys. It's serviceable major league players, guys that you're certain are going to be on major league rosters. For pitchers, they're anywhere from like 2s and 3s for starters to, good solid middle relievers and maybe closers. They're everyday or strong platoon fielder, batter type players, positionally. And the thing that goes away is the term. You start seeing, instead of these guys getting like the 5 and 6 year deals, like DJ LeMahieu last year, like they make this labor agreement, whatever. Those the DJ LeMahieu's of this coming 2022 season are all of a sudden going to be getting 2 and 3 year deals. They might get them at the same money
Yeah.
term, but they're not going to get the same years. So when
Yeah.
Barrios is signing for 7 years, probably a good idea. Rodriguez, definitely a great idea for him. He sees 5 years, 77 million. I mean, he couldn't, like if the Tigers were trying to pull that paper away, he signed that thing as it was like as soon as it was put in front of him, smartly.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Like each of the last couple of years is such a shock to us. Or like you might get one or two big deals coming off the end of the season, and then we really haven't heard anything. Right? It's been constantly a surprise. Like we go through the winter meetings and kind of not seeing much, and it really everything was sort of delayed. And they say it's it may be the smart move on these guys of what, jump in ahead of labor. Like who knows, right? I mean, who knows, right? Could you be the delayed season? Could you lose? Could you lose out on that year? So if you want to jump in and grab that bucks now, now's a smart move on that. Um, I was a bit surprised actually how many guys wound up declining the QOs. That we only had one guy sign the qualifying offer, which I thought was interesting, and it's completely worked out for the guys so far. Like everyone who signed with it so far, that's been a huge win for him. So again, sort of thinking with like the whole labor aspect going in there, right? That would you necessarily want to take that risk, knowing that you might have a short negotiating window, and then everything might get delayed on the back end.
Okay, I do hear from producer Xavier Rizzo that we did get the live video interrupted for a bit. Uncle Paul's on the chat, and he says that we lost the audio for a bit. So if you were on, hopefully in the replay or on demand, we won't miss out on that. Xavier says it was about 45 seconds, but he's got it back up. So thank you, producer Xavier. Big day for producer Xavier today. He got his cast off, so good job
Excellent.
by him. 2 weeks in the cast. We might dive into that on Diehard Dads, although I have something else for Diehard Dads that I've been waiting to get off my chest. I actually have to make sure that I didn't do it for the last Diehard Dads. Um, it was about hockey, so I don't know, Doug. You'll have to tell me
We
if I.
definitely talked hockey for your last time for Diehard Dads, but you have multiple stories in
Oh
Diehard,
boy, yeah, I don't know.
too.
Well, you have to.
You may have to text me on the side here.
Yeah,
Hit
I'll
me,
have to text you on the side.
catch me outside.
Catch me outside. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so labor hangs over this thing, but smartly for the players, they are signing deals and getting themselves done. Um, the early free agent signings being a little bit of a surprise. I guess it was kind of going to go one way or another, right? Like there was going to be sort of this flood of them, like there has been. Else, there would have been like none. And I guess I felt like there was going to be like none, but then now that I'm thinking through it, the owners got in trouble for that, way back when, and they called it collusion, right? So that is probably the reason why you have some of these owners that are jumping out there and putting pen to paper, with signatures here and giving up that money with some labor uncertainty ahead of them. Dog, I thought the Barrios deal with Toronto was very team friendly
Hmm.
because he's still in his 20s. I think he's 27, right? He
Hmm.
signs a 7-year deal. So that's to his age 34 season. And it's $131 million, which, I mean, I'd take it. but but I thought, especially before he got traded from the Twins, like I thought when that guy hit free agency that I'm like, okay, he's going to be one of these, like, at least a $200 million guy. Like he'll probably, I had him at like something, probably mid 20s, maybe even 30 million to some team, contending team. They get him for less than 20 million a year. What am I missing? It's 18 and change, right? Or
Yeah.
19 and change for,
Yeah. It's about,
one
yeah, 19, I think.
131.
Yeah. Hmm.
So what am I missing? Like, isn't he really, really good? Like, isn't he one of these guys? To me, he's like more of a 1-2 rather than a 2-3. Like, probably like a 2 that's really solid, and maybe
Yep.
some years, maybe even a 1, right? So I thought that the Blue Jays made a phenomenal deal. Maybe it was Dawg that they made the trade for him. He saw the atmosphere and he wanted to be with that group of young studs, and that was the sell job. Um, or maybe it was Erod's deal that influenced it, because now he's definitely a guy that's probably a 2 in his best season, but much more like a 3, and then sometimes like a 4, right? Like he's like a solid, 3, maybe like a
Yeah.
4, right? Like he's not going to kill you if he's in your top 4, but you probably don't want to trot him out there as your ace, and he's 5 years, 77 million, which again is not that's not as much as we're seeing for pitchers lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Blue Jays did say, they went out and traded for him with the intent to keep him, and I think you're right. I think he seems like he's found a spot that he wants to be in and continue to grow at, and a team that can win. A team that's on the rise, and he can be the leader of that team up top.
Speaking
So
of leaders, um, Verlander back to the Astros is obviously a big one, because that was the one thing that you probably felt like they were lacking, especially not only as they were going along in the playoffs, the Astros, but also especially as they got to the World Series, where you're like, man, if they, like, think about it, they fall in 6 games. The bats went dead for periods over the season where, they were getting swept by some bad teams. Like they got swept by the Orioles. They got swept by the Rangers. They got swept by the Rockies. Like they got swept by some, like you don't usually see uh, a World Series team getting swept by these real. I mean, like the Orioles weren't just a last place team. They lost what 108 games or something.
yeah.
Like they just weren't very good. So we knew that the Astro bats could go cold, and if they had that extra bit of pitching that was timely, like in a guy like Verlander, I mean, maybe that makes a difference and they win 2 of those games more that they needed, and they're holding the trophy right now. So that's a great signing. Uh, that's a great signing for them to get him back, and also to keep him away from the Yankees or
Yep.
the Red Sox or any of these other, that even the Tigers, some of these other teams that want to sign him and bring him, maybe the Angels. I'm sure the Angels were probably kicking the tires on him too
Hmm.
for what they gave to our next subject, Noah
Hmm.
Syndergaard. 1 year, 21 and change million. Um, Dog, you're upset, right? Like he's been with the Mets for 9 years. You got him in the trade for R.A. Dickey. You got him and Travis d'Arnaud, who's can't throw anybody out behind the plate, but that didn't stop him from getting a ring as a starting catcher.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
yeah, offense. Um, but he's a guy. that his stats aren't as good as you think. He had,
Syndergaard?
yeah,
Yeah.
he had some good runs, but when you look at his stats, you're like, I kind of thought he was better than that. For some reason, I feel like he was better than that. So he's probably a guy that you feel like has better stuff than his stats have given you. He throws 2 innings over the last 2 seasons combined, coming back from Tommy John surgery and then, setbacks after that. But he's got a big personality. He's a guy that you look at as being a horse, right? And um,
Thrives on the big stage.
and you just like him. He's just easy to like. Like he's a
Yeah.
guy that you want on your team because you feel like at any given time he could just dominate an opponent. And there's
Yep.
not, there's more guys like that now than we've seen in generations past, but there's still not a lot of them.
Yep.
And the Mets make the qualifying offer to him, 18 and change million, 18.5 million. And, basically it
And
seemed like
that was a little controversial. I mean,
yeah.
there were people saying don't do it. The guy's been throwing a breaking ball since September 2019. They stepped up. I think they said, this is the kind of guy that you want to have in the organization. He came back for him end of the year, to kind of prove it out and whatnot. And they stepped up, did the right thing. He seemed pretty cool with it. Seemed very, very happy, and God, maybe even thinking that maybe they'll do a slightly longer deal, or just do the 1 year prove it, kind of like they did with Stroman. I mean, and which totally makes sense. I mean, the 1 year totally makes sense for Syndergaard. To me, the real surprise, and we've been kind of talking about this a little bit, and I've been tweeting on a little bit too, is I'll be honest, I don't understand this deal from like anybody's perspective on this one. Like the Angels, again, like you're kind of taking a big shot on a guy who literally has thrown 2 innings, right? I mean, has not thrown a breaking ball. That's a healthy risk in its own right on there. You're already pitching depleted on that team. So it's not like they're loaded with it and they can kind of ease them into it, whatever. I mean, they're trying to talk like the 6-man rotation. But like, you've kind of got like a 2-man rotation right now. So like, yeah, I guess you're going to do 6 guys, but I'm not exactly sure how that works with them. I'm like, I think you can kind of make that argument better with the Mets than you could as an Angel. You're going away from everyone you've ever had as like a pitching coach, basically. You're not from that area. It's not like he's going back home to Texas or anything. He kind of lives and loves New York. So it's like you're kind of putting so much volatility into it for him for $2 million, which $2 million is $2 million, but especially for a prove it deal, I think it's a strange deal from almost everyone's perspective on it. Not really pissed the Mets aren't matching it. I think he kind of decided he wants to change it. Does that say something underneath the surface on the Met organization? Maybe. Like nobody's really fessed up on that too much. So I think some of the beat writers are kind of trying to throw it out there. I think they're starting with the narrative and making everything fit on it. Hefner is the only guy who came back, the pitching coach, right? So I mean, seemed to have gotten well with him. He's done nothing but develop better and better and better throughout the Met organization. So yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it may work out for him. I think the guy's great talent. The guy's great. I think he's a great person, great personality. He's a great teammate. But yeah, I don't get it. And especially in a 1 year prove it to organization that doesn't owe you anything. I mean, it's not like I don't know, right? I mean, the Angels is where you go to like underperform and disappear, right? And
Like Mike Trout.
yeah, well, I mean, it's like even when you do well, right? Nobody talks about it, right? Yeah, you're gonna be like the fifth fiddle out there, right? On a team that's still below 500, right? So it's not even like, all right, I'm going to go to this and going to make the playoffs and stuff. I'm like, you're kind of going to the West Coast version of the Mets, and I don't know about it. So hope it works out for him. Thank God I didn't go to the Phillies or something, but yeah, I don't understand it, and I think he might be kicking himself in a couple, come May and June is my guess.
All right. Well,
or he's throwing no hitters.
We didn't
Classic Met fashion.
So just for the viewers and the listeners, we created a rundown for the show, but we didn't discuss any of the subjects in depth. So I didn't know at all, really, how Dawg felt about the deal, and he doesn't know how I feel about the deal. But I will remind you, Dawg, that in the past, in similar situations, I have been a huge proponent of, hey, if you're gonna let me sign you to like a 1 or 2 year deal, yeah, like I'll give you way more money. Like
Mhm.
I think it's a great move by the Angels because I don't think that they're getting him for matching the Mets offer. If they match the offer, he's not going to go. And they didn't have to go into like Verlander 25 million territory. They made it just enough to sweeten the pot. And if he finds success there, they had a good sales pitch where the 6 man rotation was the sales pitch that, hey, you're coming back from surgery, 6 man rotation, we could bring you back slower. Our metrics say this and whatever. Maybe they'll let him hit too. I mean, they seem to love to let their big ass left
Guy,
handed
guy,
hitting, right handed throwing pitchers hit, right?
two guys who have thrown thrown 100 miles an hour and hit a home run at 100 miles an hour
Yep.
exit velo. So,
They're the two.
well, that's it.
They got them both. Um, so they gave him just enough to sweeten it. They clearly have spots in the rotation to improve. And look, they've made an organizational commitment to bolster their pitching. They used
True.
literally every single one of their draft picks last year on pitchers. They took like 20 pitchers, 20 out of 20 pitchers. So what? Okay,
A little
he's there
weird.
for 1 year. He's there for 1 year. If he sucks, if he's not ready, whatever, he's immediately off the books. Immediately off the books. And it's another year that you've just given 20 of the guys that you just drafted, right? In 2021. You've just bought, a rotation spot or an experimental spot, and the upside is, so the only risk, we talk about risk versus reward, and you talked about it. I think they're making very little risk because they're a financially solvent team and organization. They're willing to spend the money, and they've spent it on Trout and Rendon. Previously Pujols, who now comes off the books. Um, so they get a little bit more freed up, but they're going to spend a little more. They're going to spend it on pitching, and they'll piece together what they have with their position players and a full year of Trout and a full year of Otani. That division is not that, wins wise, that division was not out of hand. You're not chasing Secretariat from the backstretch, right? Where they're just going to run away and you're never going to catch them. It's not like that. The Astros could come back to the pack a little bit here. They get back Verlander, well, they're going to lose Correa apparently, right? So that could be a heart and soul guy. Maybe that knocks them back 10 wins, you know. The Mariners had a 76 win, run differential, and they won like 90 games. So are they gonna, like, even if they progress, the regression toward the mean probably means that, like, the best that they would do again would be to win 90 games, and probably they won't even do that. Texas is still a ways away, right? And the A's are dismantling things. So they could they could have a real shot right away. Like, dog, they might be the 88 win, you know, NL West champ that wins the World Series, that we're talking about this time next year. If a guy like Syndergaard comes back and he's the best of whatever he's been, and he doesn't even have to necessarily be that until the second half of the season. It's not going to take a lot of wins to win that division next year. You might be able to win it with something in the low 90s. You might not even have to get to 95. It might be similar to this year's NL East, the AL West. So I think I might have said the NL West before, but I meant the AL West. If I did say that, I stand corrected. So I like it, and I think they have more moves up their sleeves, and they might just take these pot shots. But they weren't going to get him, Doug. They weren't going to get him if they offered 19 million. If they offered maybe 20 million, they start talking. Well, now you're offering him almost 3 million more, and like, why would he not take that? Like, if he doesn't like it there, he could just turn around and go back to the Mets next year. Or if the team sucks and he's doing well, they'll trade him to a contender and he could go make a run somewhere. But he's got as good a chance to make a run there. I actually love what you said, Dog. He's basically going to the Mets of the AL West. Guess what? The Mets in the NL East could win the division. They might end up even being a favorite, depending on what they do in the offseason and depending on, some of these Braves moves.
Yeah, not so far, but all season's not going great so far. Yeah, I suppose I see your points on it. It is up for grabs. I will say that could be a very scary team in the playoffs, right? If you have those headline guys and you've got a top two of Ohtani and Syndergaard, that could be huge, especially in shorter series, right? You would definitely not want to face that kind of team coming off it. Again, $21 million. I mean, you're gonna get 120 innings out of them, 130, 140. I don't know. That's a pretty full freight. How many of those shots can you take? I mean, yeah, they're big enough. I guess they can give it a yo. Again, I think that's more from a team with a little bit more established rotation. I think that's a better fit for what I would, if I'm the GM, I would spend the money on a Syndergaard, knowing that, hey, I might really get lightning in a bottle. Like, this guy could be a takeover and be the number 3, number 4 guy on a World Series team, maybe even better, right? Versus now, he's kind of the top of rotation kind of guy, and I still need to fill in a bunch, right? So I mean, what are you doing for numbers 3 through 6 in your 6-man rotation now to kind of fulfill what you were saying to him? I don't know.
Well,
we'll see.
They have some guys there, and they could get some other guys, and maybe some of these draft picks are ready. Plus, the other thing is, if he gives you 120, 130 innings during the regular season, but he's like, going full bore by October, and you're in the playoffs, like we've seen now, if he gives you 5 or 6 in a playoff game, he's basically like, he's basically the best pitcher in the league at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, hell, what I would use him on is like be a sick 1 to 2 inning guy, and try and use him like every other day as like a 1 to 2 inning guy, and just shut it down. But because that's the other problem, right? It's great to have him for the playoffs, but is he got any gas left at that point? Right, so a lot of these guys, that's happened to a bunch of the guys in the Mets. Ty Walker and stuff like that. I mean, they started hitting the innings limits and they started dying out, and you really need to kind of reload on that. So. If you're not careful with Syndergaard's innings early in the first half of the season, you could run into that same sort of situation. You're looking at August, September, trying to do a stretch run, and he's just running out of gas. So,
all right. Speaking of out of gas, is the Met front office search taking the gas out of their tank in the hot stove here at the beginning of the offseason? All the signs point to former Angels GM Billy Eppler being the guy that's going to take the job. If anybody follows the Mets, they'll know that until he's actually signed and he's like, it's not just a rumor that he's not the GM until then. But yes, they've been close on GMs before.
We've had GMs starting last year, and oh, by the way, don't make it to opening day.
Yeah. So, and managers, for that matter too, right? GMs and managers. So
yes, we have.
You got it, and you need each of those things. So first you need a GM, then you need a manager, and perhaps that was another reason why Thor held up and said, "Look, for a 3-ish million more almost." I can go and be in the great weather, be in Disney, get to watch Ohtani and Trout every day or whatever days they're, hopefully Trout's back, right? And Rendon, and I got a shot at doing something here, and there's more stability, believe it or not, Dog, right? Like, I mean, you'd be like, the Angels are a more stable organization right now than the Mets are. The Mets probably have better players, 1 to 25, and then even stretching in organizationally to 35, 40, whatever. I mean, you'd probably take the Mets roster as an overall piece. You take the Angels' very, very top guys, but then from there on, it's like, you know, I mean, who would be taken first if you pulled those teams together, right? DeGrom,
Yeah.
then Otani, Trout, and then after that, it's like Met. So, and maybe Rendon mixed in there, but um, look, the instability of that had to play a part. You've had all these people, like everybody's made the joke on Twitter, including me, that like I've now taken myself out of consideration for the Mets GM job, right? Like that was the joke, the meme. But looks like it's gonna
I'm
end
still
up.
in the running, by the way.
I know,
I'm taking
I
myself out.
I know. But once they see this video, that's gonna be the clincher. Look, we predicted that Ray Montgomery, our pal, a protege of David Stearns in Milwaukee, he was part of the group under Perry Minasian in Anaheim that drafted the 20 pitchers out of 20 and, has now signed Noah Syndergaard. Eppler comes from there, but not in that regime. So he's before Minasian. And Ray Montgomery's out pick. If Ray Montgomery was the GM, you could have had that signed, sealed, and delivered. And, probably you're holding on to Thor at this point. So we'll see how it pans out. But I just had to, I had to get that.
I disagree with that one, but that's okay.
I had to get that. I had to get that in. Ray's the guy. He's got it.
That's true.
They talk about
nothing against Ray. I would totally be down with Ray being here. I'm saying to hit Thor not signing because the GM's not here, I think is a stretch.
No, but listen. There's no GM and there's no manager, dog. I mean, and here's $3 million more to go play where it's 82 and never rains.
Can't argue with the weather.
So now I know it's California Stan, but it's also New York Stan. So it's you're getting taxed and hit up the wazoo with all these things. It's not like playing in Texas or Florida, right, where there's no state income tax. But again, it's for a year, and we'll see from there on in. Look at the Angels. Maybe they're seeing like, hey, look what Barrios did, and look what happened with the Jays, where they traded for him and they sold him on what they were doing, and now they got him, and they got him for a good price. Anyway, so I feel like Ray would have been a good guy for them to get. They could have had the front office set. They could have had a manager named. All these reports are they want David Stearns. They were going to try to get a stopgap, and they have to wait a year for him to be free from Milwaukee. Blah 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 blah. If that's the guy you want, get the guy who was his protege. The guy knows New York. He went to Fordham. He played in the league. He's respected. He's run scouting departments. He's been a special assistant to the GM. Like he's got all the experience that you need. He's done it all. Like what's the problem? Like, and he's the protege of the guy that you want. So if you can't get the guy that you want, don't you get his protege? Like, isn't that how it works, guys? Like
maybe they couldn't get him. They wanted to get a bunch of guys who're pretty good, and they weren't given opportunity. Who knows, right? We'll have to ask. Yeah.
They could have asked, and
they've asked a lot of people.
we'll see if they can.
They haven't been shy. They've asked a lot of people to dance.
we could see if we could actually find that one out. We'll have to dig a little bit on that.
So supposedly Eppler is buddies with Stern. I saw that on social. Who knows? I don't think they overlapped like work-wise or anything like you would like to have seen. Like that was a more natural fit with Ray than Eppler, I would say. But does sort of leave the door open a little bit on they're waiting for their guy. They're still waiting on Stearns to be the POBO, right? Prison Baseball Ops, and to get a guy who he can deal with as the GM. And it sounds like I signed for 4 years, so that's a good job by Billy on that one. So maybe that's it. And you know what? If I'm Cohen looking at this for a 20-year holding period, if I gotta wait 2 years to get my 37-year-old guy that's gonna run for the next 20 years, then so be it. I mean, I think the more interesting one for the Mets right now is they're kind of right at that sort of tipping point. We chatted a little bit on this of, do you take a pause and say, you know what? You lost Syndergaard, who's probably a big, I'll be honest, I don't know if they're going to replace that in the offseason for it. They literally have question marks at every pitching spot. I think it's funny. It's almost a little bit reminds me a little bit of the Yankees last year when I went down. Like, these guys who could be good, or you're not quite sure, right? And it's okay to have a couple of guys like that. Right now, the Mets have like 5 guys like that. Even DeGrom, right? As scary as that is. So you start to look and say, are you supposed to be a big buyer right now? I don't think so. That's the sort of the painful sort of one. I think we got teased in the first half last year. I think if you want to really build for the next, 5 to be a perpetual contender, like they say, you don't go crazy on it. Take your picks. Try and get some of the John Grays, get like the second tier sort of guys to kind of fill in.
That's your guy, man. You want John Gray so bad.
Perfect. It's perfect. I want him. Whatever. Painful. That would have worked perfectly. But anyway,
wherever he ends up, I have a feeling there's going to be a John Gray shirt, a jersey on its way to the Dog's house.
Exactly. So, and then you just say, you know what, we're going to be a contending kind of team, and we've got the money to buy in some big players if we need to. But make sure that the pieces that they add are the 5-year answers, right? Not the we're paying up for 1 to 2 years and suffering with the tail, right? I think they've got to be disciplined now. So that'll be interesting to see how they come out of the gate on that. Do they stick to that, or just come and say, look, we kind of look like a laughing stock and we need to keep ourselves competitive? And do they kind of push themselves, and does that keep you in that 75 to 85 win mediocrity zone versus just, eat your veggies a little bit this year. Let the kids come up. You got some good guys in the fall league that are doing well. They could fill in some of your spots. Add some longer term pitching support that you're going to need, and we'll be there for the future. And I just wait till next 2 years.
I don't know. I think you got too many pieces with the Mets that you'd be silly to not try to put something good together. Like, again, I kind of just went over it with the Brave thing. I mean, they're the Braves, when you take Acuna out of there, right? They're not that much different from the Mets in terms of like what they had in pitching versus what they ended up with in pitching, and they're holding the World Series trophy right now. I mean, Uncle Paul wants Kevin Gossman, Carlos Rodon. I mean, those guys are good. Like, and those guys have also had recent histories within the last year that are much better than what they've had in their careers. So, Dog, I mean, I like the idea of taking 1 to 2 year shots with these guys and seeing it. But, the way that I like the alternative is if you can zag now when everybody else is zigging, which would mean if you can all of a sudden have 3 or 4 pitchers that are going to get you, for the most part, into the 7th inning, 8th inning, like in half their starts. Now you're zagging while everybody else is zigging, or you're zigging while everybody else is zagging, and you find a way to get more out of these guys than other people are getting from their pitching staffs. So I think that would be a way to do it, and I'd be willing to go the more years for guys like that. But we'll see what happens, and we do have this cloud of labor hanging over us, and the Mets to me are playing against that clock. They have to get Eppler in, and he's got to get up to speed with everything that's going on in the organization, and then he's got to hire a manager, right?
Yep. And
by the way, and speaking of which, nobody was happier than me to see the Yankees' new third base coach. Oh, baby!
This is like beat the dog night.
Oh my God, that was I was like, I had to look at. I'm like, is this dog doing fake news that Luis Rojas is now the Yankees' third base coach? And like, I'm a Yankee fan, and yet I was president of the Luis Rojas fan club. So I am like overjoyed to see him.
Nice to see him have a press conference to announce the third base coach.
And damn well deserved.
It'll tweak the tail.
Oh, absolutely. I love Louis.
I wish nothing but success to Louis. Hey, he's a good guy. He's a good. Everyone says the guy's a good guy. He's a good coach. He's a good guy to have around players and so forth. Um, I think he was a little over. Well, like I've said before, right? I mean, he's a manager war of zero, right? He's not going to win your games, not going to lose your games, and for many organizations, that's perfectly fine, right? And like for the Yankees, that's absolutely perfect, right? I mean, obviously only going to be a third base coach, but if you had to fill in for you or something like that going forward, yeah, he'd be fine. He'd fit right in there, in my opinion. So,
I'm sure he will manage again.
yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
You
The
know,
we had the spot for him, but
we did.
the Padres
The,
they stepped up. I mean, tough
the
to be
Padres.
competing against that.
Yeah, the Padres pulled the freaking Bob Melvin card on us. So that was.
That's-
Well, you know what? Yeah. Okay.
You do.
I'll give you
Yep.
that one. If
Yeah,
you could get
exactly.
Bob Melvin, then get him.
Yeah.
And there's still, listen. So Uncle Paul is throwing Met manager names out there: Showalter, Brad Asmus, long shot for Carlos Beltran. But I
I'm so
mean,
pissed about Osmus. He sucked as a Met.
but
I still got a long history of that one.
but how about Bruce Bochy? Like, how is he not your guy? Like automatically? I mean, I don't know.
St. Louis guy too. Like shit. Sitting right there. Love it. Uh, Buck gives you a um, little bit of panache in New York. I don't know if we're quite ready, honestly, for Showalter. I mean, I guess that's more like if you say like we're gonna go for it. I think Buck might be the kind of guy to kind of go for that.
I don't know.
Whereas,
Bochy's like the guy. I don't know. Like, I mean, he's
yeah,
he's the guy for like no matter what you're doing. I feel like and he was on Mad Dog Russo a month or two whatever ago, and he was like, yeah, I'm listening if people are calling, but nobody's called. Like, how's nobody called that guy? Like, did they forget? Like, do they not know? Like, he's got more World Series rings than any active manager,
yeah,
and Tony La Russa is an active manager. So, um, that's pretty good, right? Like,
yeah,
I would say like he would be your guy, and you have a lot of veterans on that team, and he's gonna get them, you know, doing their thing. He'll let them do their thing, and for the guys that aren't doing their thing, he'll he'll move the pieces around. Plus, he knows how to manage a pitching staff, as we know. You can get a lot maybe out of what you got there. Uncle Paul will address this before we get to Diehard Dads. He said, what about the Yankees and Anthony Rizzo? Um, uh, we're seeing this stuff out here. There's all kinds of different reports, and the Yankees are not going to be very active in free agency. Yet, on the other hand, you see that they're in with the Dodgers on Corey Seager. And look, you just take a step back, look at what makes sense, right? Anthony Rizzo makes so much sense for the Yankees.
mm-hmm.
He already got his taste. It's just a matter of how many dollars and how many years and who else is bidding against you. And once Freddie Freeman, doesn't get wooed by everybody else and just stays in Atlanta like he should, um, he's like the only other guy that you would really even want to consider for that spot because he's like a better version of Anthony Rizzo, at least offensively, maybe not defensively. Defensively, he's good. Rizzo's great. Um, they're both leaders, lefties, lefties that hit lefties, and guys that you want in any clubhouse. So I don't think Freddie Freeman's really going anywhere. I think it's nice that he's a free agent and he could listen to all these pitches, but like I'll be shocked if he ends up somewhere else.
Yep.
So Rizzo back to the Yankees makes all the sense in the world. He's the kind of guy that you're not just paying him for his stats, you're paying him for what he does in the clubhouse, what his reputation, you're paying him for his defense also, which is something that they need because they're not very good defensively in the infield suddenly where they were just a few years ago. So he makes your infield defense a lot better because you
Yep.
have you got some erratic guys at the middle infield positions there, and you have Urshela at third, where he's gold glove type fielder. So they got him and Seager. You get him and Seager, uh, uh, you know,
Fixes a lot of problems.
you fix
Makes
basically,
two make makes too much sense to see it not happen.
Yeah, and then you could do what you want with Torres. You could do what you want with LeMahieu, and you could use those guys as chips, whatever however you want to do it. You could teach one of those guys to play the outfield if you want more outfield depth, and then you're talking about signing spare parts, and maybe if there's a pitcher that you really like, you can kind of go after him. Maybe they shock the world and sign Clayton Kershaw. I mean, nobody's said anything about Clayton Kershaw to the Yankees, but you know what, Dog? Honestly, it makes a lot of sense for them to sign Clayton Kershaw. Like, I would take him. I would take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I can't believe the Dodgers will let him go. It makes more sense. I saw one guy saying the Phillies. I'm like, well, that's just like crazy talk.
Well, again, you don't know. I mean, the Phillies have opened the checkbook, and they've made some good moves. I mean, that Zach Wheeler move, I'll admit, you had me on that one. I mean, you loved Zach Wheeler for a long time. You were these trade Zach Wheeler for Gary Sanchez, dude. And I was like, the Yankees will never fucking do that. Now, like, you're right.
Home run.
You're right. The Yankees won't ever do that because the Phillies got no reason to do that. They have a better catcher, and they have Zach Wheeler already, so they got no reason to do that. So, they've made some good decisions there, and they're another team that they don't need much for things to come together. Uncle Paul, wants the Yankees or the Mets to get Starling Marte. He's not as attractive because, Dog, he's a guy that's played center field career year at 33. So you got to figure he's going to hit the decline. And
rewind the Springer talk from last year, right?
Yeah, it's the Springer talk. It's exactly what it is. If you need a center fielder for a year or two, and you have a good center fielder coming up behind him, and you have room on the corners, then you can go in on him for a few years. But he doesn't make sense for the Yankees. He makes more sense for the Mets, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe and only if you have the universal DH. I'd say.
And you think the Mets are like that one player away. I think too. Like that's, which again, I'm not so sure on that one. I'd rather. Yeah, I'm still okay with Nimmo in center. Honestly, I mean, I prefer if I could slide him over and get a great field in center fielder. The guy from Toronto, I think Broxton,
Minnesota.
I'm sorry, from Minnesota. Oh no, was he from Minnesota? No, I think it was the guy the Mets got in the
Buxton. You're thinking of Byron Buxton.
I'm sorry, not Buxton.
You're not thinking of the other guy. Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Buxton.
You're thinking of Buxton from the Twins.
Yeah, he was down at AAA for this year. Great fielder. Looks like he finally started hitting a little bit. Maybe see what comes up on that guy. He might be a year or two away. We'll start taking that position.
Wait, maybe you are talking about a Blue Jay guy because Byron Buxton from the Twins was not.
No, it was like Keon. It was like Keon. It was jeez, what was this? It was like Keon Buxton or something.
Oh, Keon Broxton.
Right, I don't know. Whoever the hell the center fielder was in Matt Steele. I forget the guy's name off the top of my head here, but he wound up having a good year down at AAA.
The guy that the Mets already have. I thought you were talking.
Yeah, the Mets already have.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the Mets.
Yeah, he's a minor leaguer. No, he's a minor leaguer.
I thought you meant that the Mets should go after Byron Buxton in a trade.
No.
Okay, so we fucked up that segment. That's fine. Like, sorry, we're not perfect.
Sorry,
it's not really you. It was me. I just completely missed it. You were saying it right. I was just thinking of the other guy.
So, anyway, that dude might come up and be okay. You have Beatty coming up, third baseman, maybe left fielder. So, there's a little bit of room I think you kind of have around there. I think you just live with Nimmo in center. I think you'll wind up paying up a lot for Marte. And again, do I want to do 4 years? That's a classic guy, right? Would you do 2 or 3 years? Sure. Right? So would I do 4 years to 33-year-old center fielder? We looked at it last year, right? Those don't end well. They end early. Like, it's not even like a 2-year. Like, that's probably a year. Then you're gonna have elite center fielder, and then you're basically gonna have Nimmo.
He's not even elite right now, though. So like he's gonna regress. He's probably still okay. Yeah. But now, because of this accidental segment, I'm gonna do one of Riz predicts the future things. Now I'm just saying, with no rhyme or reason, that the Mets are gonna end up trading for Byron Buxton. I'm just saying it. Like
There you go. Called it.
he's going to be your center fielder next year. I can't say he's going to be your opening day center fielder because he'll probably get hurt in spring training. And there might not be an opening day next year.
Or spring
But
training.
I'll say that, or spring training, yeah. But I'll say that now. I'm saying it that on November 17th, as I wish my nephew Gerard Rizzo happy birthday, I'm going to say the Mets will get Byron Buxton in a trade, which he doesn't care about because he's a Yankee fan. Okay, we covered all that stuff. We could keep going, but I think what we are going to do is we are going to shift gears in just a moment, and we will get to
Something else we
diehard.
go first, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to diehard dads, but so it is my nephew's birthday, and sometimes, you know, you like to get a great gift, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And Dog, you know what a great gift is for somebody that's especially in the Bergen or Passaic County areas in New Jersey, especially someone who likes their automobile, Dog. You know what a great gift is?
A nice detailing at Big Ed's Car Wash.
You're reading my mind.
How did I know?
How did he know? Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Go check him out. I was just there on what was it? Monday. Got one of the automobiles an overdue wash. I hadn't seen Big Ed quickly enough. Had a nice discussion with Ed. He's getting ready for Thanksgiving, and his tunnel is just so big. You gotta get in there, and the car comes out. I still every time I walk outside, I look at the car. I'm like, oh yeah, it's nice and clean now. Like, look at that thing; it's glowing. So Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, and Ed's dying to come on, Dog. He wants
Any
to
guy
talk a
with a
little,
tunnel like that is welcome any day.
and he wants to talk a little hockey. I'm like,
Ooh,
He goes,
there
you
you
ever
go.
talk hockey? I go, "Well, Big Ed's on. I think we could manage it.
Squeeze it in.
I think we can get it in.
Sure.
We're going to talk a little hockey and Diamond Diehard Dads segment here in a moment. Um, and what's the way that Big Ed possibly and others might get their word out? With custom print and promotional products, Dog. It's fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. Go to fmsgraphics.com. Dog, they are a family owned, family operated business for over 50 years, serving your printing and promotional needs. fmsgraphics.com, fmsgraphics.com. Dog, we use virtual backgrounds for the most part here, but a lot of us during real life, especially in the pandemic, you don't like to use a virtual background during your work Zoom or your Microsoft meeting or your whatever you're using, and you need a nice piece of art for your home, your office, or your home office. If you're in that situation, where what do you do? Where do you go? What are you thinking?
I would say I need to find something that personifies us, right? It kind of gives a little feel for what we are. We're sports guys, always hanging around the stadiums. We want to go to sportsmaps.com and get a nice little print of the stadium. We put in the background, class it up situation.
It's a little unique what they do, right? It's not typically what you see. It's like the whole outlay of the area of your stadium. It even has, British Premier League stadiums. It's got horse tracks. It's got North American teams. It's so good. SportsMapz, MAPZ, SportsMapz.com. SportsMapz, a nice piece of art for your home, your office, or your home office.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, there we are. Die Hard Dads. So, Dog, it's so funny because when I thrust the Die Hard Dads segment into the show, it's probably over a year ago now, I think.
Yeah, probably.
That I think about it. It was always like, okay, we're doing this Die Hard Dad segment, and yeah, dog, what do you got? Like, but now I've been carrying them lately, I have to say.
There you go.
I've been carrying, and I am going to grab my bat and run right into that box and hit lead off right now. And I am going to tell you, I am swinging for the fences on this one.
All
I
right.
am. There's not even. I am. I'm gripping it and ripping it here. I'm looking, sitting dead red, fastball. I'm trying to hit it out. Okay.
All right.
So in my other life, I do the and you tell me if I did this one last time. I do on my other YouTube channel, the not Diamond Diehards one, the Joe Rizzo YouTube. You could find it Joe Rizzo Rockets on YouTube. You'll find it. I do play by play for the Rockets, New Jersey Rockets girls uh, hockey team, of which my daughter is a member of one of the two teams. So I do her games, most of the time. And then when I can, I'll do the games for, she's on a 19U team and there's a 16U team, and I'll do those games as well. So in the 16U game, a couple of weeks ago, the Rockets were playing a team called the Princeton Tiger Lilies. That's a real team, and it's a reputable organization. They produce, good hockey teams, and their girls teams are like one of the staples. You're used to seeing them at every level. There's a few of them out there like that: Junior Flyers, Little Flyers, New Jersey Colonials, Tiger Lilies, Rockets. You're used to seeing these names. Ramapo Saints. This we're getting a little local here, but bear with me. So the Rockets 16U roster is a little varied this season on in terms of the levels of the players. There's some with a lot of experience, and there's a handful that don't have much experience. So what you have is you have this menagerie within the team where, unfortunately, some of the games end up getting a little lopsided. And this was a game where that was happening in favor of the Tiger Lilies. Now, in baseball at that level and softball, you have the mercy rule, right? Typically, you have it. It depends. The higher the level is, the mercy rule is, it varies, but there's one there. But there's definitely a modicum of sportsmanship that comes in. Now, in league games in hockey, I don't think there is one. They do switch to a running clock at some point. When there's like maybe like a 10 goal differential and you're into the third period, something like that. So the other thing that you do in hockey when you have a game where it's clear that one team's just a lot better than the other, and it's no fault of anybody. This is what you do. You tell your kids, don't shoot the puck. You can handle the puck. 4 passes, everybody on the ice touches it, and then you get a shot. Or, one exception, if you have a player or players who have never scored or haven't scored that season, if you set them up to get their first goal, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the Princeton Tiger Lilies did, Dog?
Uh-oh.
They kept their foot on the gas the whole time.
Uh-oh.
They got it up to something like 20-0, and they just never. I mean, one pass, one timer, and I have to say that I spent the second half of that game doing play-by-play, talking about how it was really one of the most disgusting shows of a lack of sportsmanship that I've ever witnessed at the youth level in any sport. This is what we call tier 2 hockey. Dog, tier 1 is like, it's sort of like a step away from juniors. It's a lot more competitive. They call it, tier 1 / triple A. It's a different level. Tier 2 has double A, which is this level, and even single A and B, all lower levels. And where the team is situated, in this case, both teams are situated at double A, could that, the only one argument would be, well, maybe one team should be AAA and one team should be an A team. You know what? Doesn't matter. That's where they are. You're in there, and they've played other teams where it's happened, and you see the sportsmanship, and it goes on. And guess what? We've been on the other side of it, where our girls understand that if they shoot the puck or do that, they're going to just sit on the bench for the rest of the game. That didn't happen. And I was vociferous about it. I do these games because I love it, and I like the parents, I like the kids, I love to see them develop, and it's a source of enjoyment for me, and I'm glad to do it. And it's a lot of work and it's hard work, but I'm glad to do it. But Dawg, it was just absolutely unacceptable, and I'm going to air these guys. You know me. I don't pick fights. I don't bring people on here and break them down. This is like sitting on the couch having fun stuff. Dawg, it was disgusting what these guys did. It was disgusting. There's no excuse for it. And at my post-game soliloquy, I had some Annie Lennox looking wannabe mom walk by me, and I was being loud enough that the parents could hear me, because you know what? It's a reflection on the parents. Parents, you know what? If that was my kid out there, I would have told the coach what I thought as soon as he or she walked off the ice. Say, that's not acceptable. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're trying to get somebody hurt?
Yeah.
Trying to get somebody hurt? Is that what you want to pad the score? Why? What are you doing? They're 16-year-old girls, 15, 14-year-old girls. What are you trying to prove? That you're better? You proved that in the first 12 seconds of the game when you scored off the faceoff. We knew it was going to happen. We're out there trying to. Who does that help? It doesn't help anybody develop. It doesn't help your girls. It doesn't help our girls. So I aired these guys out, Dawg. I even focused the camera on their coaches. I didn't know their names. And I had some Annie Lennox wannabe mom saying, hey, yay, sportsmanship. And, so she got called out too, because it's a reflection on her, and it's a reflection on the coaches and that organization. I hit the brakes at blaming it on the girls, because they're the players, and if the example is set for them the right way, then they'll either comply, or if there's no example set for them, then they won't. And it's a bad job. So my Diehard Dads, well, it feels like a negative one, but go to my YouTube channel and find the 16U Rockets against the Princeton Tiger Lilies, and go listen to the second half and share that video so these people get aired out. It was gross, Dawg. It was gross. It was gross. I would never want my kid playing for a coach who was that unaware and that discordant about what was going on in a youth sporting match. Disgusting, terrible. Princeton Tiger Lilies. Mark them down.
That's a good job by you to call that out. That's a small fraternity and sorority in hockey, right? That's going to get around, and that will do. That will get. We've had that a couple times on our baseball as well, with some of our travel baseball. Very rare, right? Most of the time, not that sort of situation. But it's just terrible, right? And what's the positive? What did everybody learn out of it, right? Nothing. So
nothing. Yeah,
good job by you called it out, and hopefully the girls can shake it off. And I don't know, maybe people will get it, or maybe people won't. So
I'll tell you, Dawg, and honestly, for me, it's hard for me to do that. There's some people who could just get on and they'll say anything in front of my, like, I have really had trouble doing that. I had to push myself and force myself to see like an injustice that's going on, and like say something about it. Like, I mean, it's not as easy as you think for some people. For some people it comes naturally. They'll call out stuff that like looks minor that you might even know, but this one was just so egregious. Like, and I'm biased, I know our girls, I know their parents, and we've been on both sides of that, and it doesn't, we don't let it work that way. And I even discussed it with our coaches afterward. And I said, you know what? If they do it again, the only possible thing they could be doing is trying to pad their stats.
Yeah.
Which, if you're a kid,
goal differential, whatever, right? So.
Well, that's not even acceptable.
No.
Goal differential is not acceptable. If the kids are trying to pad their stats or whatever, and the coaches aren't saying anything, if a kid is trying to get to 20 goals or something and they score 6 goals in a game, I mean, okay, so you're a big shot. You scored 6 goals in a game. You didn't win. It wasn't in a game that you won 6-5. If you did it in a game where you won 6-5, I'm impressed. You do it in this game, and give it rat's ass. So I told our coach, I said, if you're in this situation next time, get to like a minute left in the game, get a stoppage of play, call the ref over, forfeit the game. Stats don't count. You lose 1-0. Fuck them. Right?
That's a goodie.
You're going to do it? You're going to keep running up and just forfeit with a minute left. Now, that might take balls. I don't know if I even have the balls to do that, but I like the suggestion that I made.
I love that.
That's a good way to do it. I'm like, what's the score of a forfeit? He goes, 1-0. I go, that means the stats don't count. I'm like, you just forfeit, right? So you play the whole game. They run up the score thinking they're doing whatever. And then you just forfeit with like a minute left. And then you make them tear up the score sheet. That's a forfeit. It's 1-0. That's it. Stats don't count. You don't get to recruit. And if it's a league game, that's where they're really counting the stats. Anyway, that was on my chest. That would have been the Diehard Dads of last week, but it will serve as the one today. And that is not just as a show of solidarity to our Rockets girls and their families, but to youth sports in general. If you're a coach and you're in a situation like that in any sport, whatever it is, get an understanding of what sportsmanship is. If you don't know, that's fine. Ask somebody, because you know what? Whatever sport you're coaching, there's going to be somebody around. You say, if this game gets really out of hand, what do we do? Like, if it's baseball, is there a mercy rule? Do you want to mercy them? Or do you want to keep playing so our kids get there? Maybe you put your right fielder into pitch where he's never done it before. You move kids around. You let them play positions they haven't played before, whatever. You talk it over with the other coach. Say, look, we understand. We're not dumb. Like, we understand what's going on out here. Have the conversation, but don't do that. You don't run up the score in the NFL, in the NHL. You want to beat somebody 11-0, go beat them 11-0. In the NFL, you want to beat somebody, you're up 49-0, and there's 4 minutes left, and it's 4th and 11. Kick the field goal. It's the NFL. They're getting paid. Youth sports, stop. Get a clue.
Yep.
And this is not a Diehard Dads, but we just got to see the great pictures and videos and tweets and text messages from the all the baseball girls in Arlington, Texas, with our pal Lily and Martineau, and Missy Coombs was down there. So Olivia and our pal Missy, who's going to be on maybe even in the next episode, doing a Dodger recap from the end of the season and giving us a little more on that. She was down there. Lily got to meet Missy and our buddy Jeff Fry, and mix in and show her talents among similar girls of her ilk. So we were very excited, and we congratulate our pal Lily and Martineau about that, and some of the other girls as well, Olivia Pichardo. And, I was just really enjoying, seeing their experience here from afar. That might be one we can make it down to one of these years too, Dawg. Right?
That'd be nice. Cheap flights now. There we go. Excellent.
By next year, there might not even be any flights.
That's true.
Or there'll be pennies on the dollar.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I'm trying to spin it, Dawg. I'm trying to get myself out of that negative, because that's tough. That's tough for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's tough for me. It's tough for me to talk about even.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, I don't even think it was affecting the girls as much in the moment as it was the parents, the coaches, because when they were, but there were definitely some of the girls who I talked to, and they were, they knew what was going on.
It's just not how you act, right?
It's just not. It's just not.
If you've made it past the 5th grade in sports, right? That's not the right thing to do. Even the girls on your side, I'm sorry, I don't excuse that either. You know what? At 16, I was shooting rifles for the freaking Army. So, you know what? No, I don't buy it. You have enough responsibility. You know the right thing to do. You've been on enough teams with that. You've been on the plus side and downside. You know what? You're not sitting there running up on that. You know what? Hit the blue line and dump it in, right? That's what you're supposed to do when you're up 10 goals.
And just you could possess it.
Yeah.
Play keep away. It's fine. No shots.
Feed the girl never gets a goal, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, we got it on that. Maybe you do one or two of those along the way, but yeah, sitting there running up on a team that's clearly inferior. It's just not right.
I had a good line though. They were coming out for a face-off in the offensive zone. I'm like, Cobra Kai lining up for the face-off on the right side in the circle. That's what it was like. It was like Cobra Kai, dog. It was like the real fake Cobra Kai.
Globo Gym.
Yeah, it was like Globo Gym. Anyway,
so
congrats to Lily and Martin. Now I wish I had what that thing was called where they were. Got to fire through and some of the tweets here. It was just so cool what they were doing.
The showcase down there and stuff? Yeah.
The showcase,
cool.
yeah, but where was it? Let me see. Did I go too far past it?
Dog's back. You got her all fired up now. She's going to start growling about hockey. A little pissed about it. Right? A little pissed about it. I have nothing for Diehard Dads. So,
the Breakthrough Series. That's what it is.
There we go.
Breakthrough Series. So, and she even got a hitting lesson from Cliff Floyd. And she got hit. And she got hit.
That fave.
And LaTroy Hawkins hit Lily with a pitch.
I didn't know the background to that.
Yeah, that was LaTroy Hawkins that hit her.
But I knew LaTroy Hawkins was involved. I know there was a hitting someone. I didn't realize she actually hit Lily.
Yeah, that video of her getting hit in the calf was Hawk.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm like, yeah, that's tweeted back. I'm like, that's
message.
I'm like, Lily, you're not the first batter that Hawk has ever sent a message to. Come on, it's like an honor. It's like an honor. Okay, so we didn't even talk about like the awards and stuff like that. Like it's so funny. Like I see all these tweets and they're talking about, our prediction for this award, that, but like it doesn't even like we'll just wait for they told us the three finalists and we know who the top three are. And then when the awards come out, they come out and we can talk about if they actually deserved it or not. But I'm not as like wrapped up in that stuff. Like I'm kind of more wrapped up in the free agency and the labor stuff and the Diehard Dads today, I guess. So,
there you go.
All right, it's gonna wrap it up for I don't know. Wednesday is Thor'sDay. We didn't call it Wednesday Night Live for once, so so we got a new title and it's short. That'll make the description a little easier for me, and we had the rundown in there. So we came prepared tonight. A lot of bullets, and we were firing on all cylinders. So that is going to wrap it up. Follow us everywhere at Diamond Diehards on social media, and find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. We have it up on Facebook. You can join our Facebook group, our Facebook page. We put it all over there. And we want you to just follow and interact with us like the way, say, our beloved Uncle Paul does when he's carrying a lot of the chat tonight. He's almost like a third co-host for us, and we appreciate his support and all of your support throughout now almost 2 years of doing the Diamond Diehards podcast. That's going to wrap it up from the different parts of New Jersey that we are in, and bringing it to you live and on demand. For the Dawg, Jeff Healy, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.